We have this idea of genius, this picture in our heads. We see the symphonies, the equations, the inventions that changed the world, and we think it's perfect. A kind of seamless brilliance that just falls out of the sky and into the mind of someone special. We build monuments to these people. We put their faces in history books. We celebrate the light they brought into the world. But this is a fantasy. It's, well, a story we tell ourselves because it's comforting. We celebrate the light, but we ignore the darkness it came from. We conveniently forget the pain, the isolation, the crushing loneliness, and sometimes the sheer madness that followed these people their entire lives. We see the finished statue, but we don't see the violent, painful chipping of the stone it took to create it. What if that darkness wasn't just a side effect? What if it wasn't some tragic flaw they had to overcome? What if it was the very fuel for their fire? This is the uncomfortable truth, the part of the story that gets left out. It's the truth that tells us the price of that kind of brilliance is a deal with the hidden, unlit parts of your own mind, a deal with your shadow. And this brings us to one of the most powerful and maybe most dangerous ideas of the 20th century. From the psychiatrist Carl Jung, he believed that inside every one of us, there's a shadow, a hidden place where we push everything we don't want to be. It's where our fears, our shame, and our secret desires live. It's the part of us that we, our families, and the world have decided is unacceptable. What if the greatest minds in history didn't succeed in spite of their pain, but because of it? What if their unstoppable drive and their ability to see the world in a new way was powered by the energy they pulled from that inner darkness? We're going to look into the secret psychological engine that drove them. And in doing so, we might just find that the very things we're taught to fear in ourselves hold the key to our own power. To really get the connection between genius and torment, you have to understand how Jung saw the human mind. He saw it as a chaotic place, full of light and dark fighting for control. First, there's the persona. That's the mask you wear. It's the version of you that you show to the world. The good employee, the nice friend, the responsible person. You need it to fit in, to survive in the social world. But what happens to all the parts of you that don't fit that mask? The anger you feel but are told you shouldn't show? The envy you feel when a friend gets something you want? The weird, creative ideas that you know would make people look at you funny? Those things, they don't just go away. Jung said they get pushed down into the unconscious, and they form the shadow. The shadow is everything you wish you weren't. If your persona is what you show off in the living room, the shadow is everything you've locked in the basement, hoping no one ever finds it. But here's the key. The more you pretend it isn't there, the stronger it gets. Jung wrote, "Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. It doesn't just stay quiet down there. It looks for a way out. It bursts out as a flash of rage, or a moment of self-sabotage, or a deep sadness that seems to come from nowhere. It becomes what Jung called an unconscious snag, thwarting our most well-meant intentions. This is the trap. In trying so hard to be good and light, we create a powerful darkness. The more perfect the mask, the bigger the shadow it casts behind us. And we spend so much energy holding that basement door shut. But Jung also said something revolutionary. The shadow isn't just evil. It's not just a trash bin for your flaws. It's also the source of your energy, your vitality, and your deepest creativity. Buried in that darkness are not just your demons, but your raw instincts and forgotten strengths. This is where the genius comes in. A genius is often someone who lives closer to that fire. Someone who is less afraid of what's in the basement. Their brilliance doesn't come from a quiet, orderly place. It comes from the messy, painful collision between their conscious mind and that shadow. They're the ones who dare to open the door and face what's there. As Jung put it, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. This is the secret work of the genius mind. They don't just light up the world. They first have to walk through their own darkness, and that journey is the source of their fire. There is perhaps no better example of this than Nikola Tesla. His name means genius, the father of our modern electrical system, a man who saw the future. He described how entire inventions would appear in his mind, fully formed, in vivid detail. He didn't just think, he saw. This was his light. But for every flash of brilliance, there was an equal shadow of pain. Tesla's life was the blueprint for the mad scientist. He was haunted by his own mind. He had a crippling fear of germs, refusing to shake hands, and using stacks of napkins at every meal. He was obsessed with the number 3. He'd walk around a block 3 times before going into a building. He had to have hotel rooms with numbers divisible by 3. This wasn't just a quirk. It was his mind trying to build a cage, to hold an inner chaos he couldn't control. He claimed to sleep only 2 hours a night, working until he collapsed. This wasn't strength. It was a symptom of a mind that couldn't turn off. So how did the pain fuel the genius? From a Jungian view, all those rituals were a desperate attempt to manage the terrifying energy erupting from his shadow. The visions that gave him his inventions weren't gentle. They were violent floods from his unconscious. His creativity wasn't a peaceful process. It was a storm that threatened to drown him. His obsession with the number 3 was a search for order in the chaos. A way to structure a world that felt like it was falling apart inside him. The paradox is that this same chaotic energy was his superpower. The same mental state that gave him phobias also gave him world-changing ideas. His inability to filter reality, like a normal person, that was both his greatest gift and his deepest curse. And it left him isolated. He avoided relationships, famously staying celibate, and in his old age, his only friends were the pigeons he fed in the park. The social mask was too heavy for him to wear. He had to live inside his own mind, because the real world couldn't handle the force of it. In Tesla, you see the trade-off. His shadow was so powerful that he couldn't integrate it. He didn't dance with it, he wrestled with it, every single day. He channeled its lightning, but he was constantly being shocked by it. The very thing that made him a legend was what condemned him to a life of suffering and loneliness. Then you have a man like Sir Isaac Newton, a giant of science, the face of pure logic. The man who discovered gravity and wrote the laws that define our universe. His public persona was that of the ultimate rationalist, a high priest of the Enlightenment. That was the mask. Behind it was a man drowning in turmoil. People who knew him said he was paranoid, vindictive, and would fly into violent rages. His famous feud with Gottfried Leibniz over who invented calculus wasn't an academic debate. No, it was a vicious, lifelong campaign to destroy his rival's name. In 1693, he had a total nervous breakdown and accused his best friends, like the philosopher John Locke, of conspiring against him. This angry, insecure man, he's the complete opposite of the calm, logical father of modern science. It's his shadow, breaking through the cracks in the mask. But the most fascinating part of Newton's shadow wasn't just his anger. It was his secret life. For decades, Newton poured his soul into something he kept hidden from the world: alchemy. He wrote over 1 million words on it, far more than he ever wrote on science. It was an obsession, a secret quest for the philosopher's stone. Why would the world's greatest rationalist be so consumed by magic? From a Jungian perspective, alchemy was Newton's way of dealing with his shadow. Science was for ordering the outside world. Alchemy was for confronting the chaos of the inner world. Alchemical texts aren't just about chemicals. They're psychological maps for turning the darkness, the nigredo, into gold, the aurum. Newton's quest to turn lead into gold was a metaphor for his own life. He was trying to transmute the lead of his own shadow, his trauma, his rage, his loneliness, into the gold of wholeness. His scientific work was about the light of the universe. His secret alchemical work was about making his own inner darkness conscious. He had to keep it hidden, because it didn't fit the mask he wore. This is the key to understanding him. The intense, obsessive focus that allowed him to discover the laws of motion was the same focus he applied to his secret, mystical work. The energy was the same. His genius wasn't born from pure reason. It was born from the tension between the light of his science and the dark, emotional world of his shadow. The man who gave the world order lived in chaos. Our third story is maybe the most tragic. It shows what happens when your shadow isn't just something you hide, but something society actively tries to destroy. Alan Turing was a mind from the future. He's the father of computer science and AI. During World War II, his work at Bletchley Park cracked Germany's unbreakable Enigma code, a feat that saved millions of lives. He saw a world where machines could think. His public mask was that of the brilliant, slightly odd professor and war hero. But a fundamental part of who he was had to be hidden. In mid-20th century Britain, his identity as a gay man was not just seen as a flaw, it was a crime. Society forced a core part of his being, his ability to love, into the deepest, most dangerous part of the shadow. The constant fear of being discovered, of being ruined, created a profound psychological stress. The crisis came in 1952 when he reported a burglary. In the process, he admitted to the police that he had been in a relationship with another man. Instead of finding the burglar, the police arrested Turing for gross indecency. The nation he helped save now called him a criminal. He was given a choice, prison or chemical castration. He chose the treatment. For a year, he was injected with hormones designed to destroy his libido. The state wasn't just punishing him, it was trying to medically erase a part of who he was. The effects were devastating. The state took his security clearance. It destroyed his career and his spirit. From a Jungian view, this is a brutal example of a society projecting its own shadow. British society, unable to deal with its own fears about sexuality, projected them onto men like Turing, calling them deviant and sick. They were trying to cut the shadow out of him. But as Jung taught, you cannot destroy the shadow without destroying the person. In 1954, Alan Turing was found dead of cyanide poisoning, a half-eaten apple by his bed. He was 41. The tragedy isn't just that a brilliant life was cut short. It's that his genius grew in a world that couldn't stand his wholeness. His mind helped free the world, but his world couldn't free him from its own prejudice. His story is a terrifying reminder that dealing with the shadow isn't just a personal journey, it's a collective one. You don't have to be a tormented genius to have a shadow. We all do. Every one of us has a basement inside, where we've stored the parts of ourselves we're afraid to look at. Maybe it's your anger, maybe it's your vulnerability, maybe it's your ambition. Or maybe it's your wild, unconventional ideas that you've learned to keep quiet. Pushing these parts down is the source of so much of our pain. It's that nagging feeling of being a fraud, that low hum of anxiety under the surface, the creative blocks that leave you feeling empty. As Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The lives of Tesla, Newton, and Turing show us the power locked in the shadow, but also the danger of leaving it locked away. So how do you begin this journey? This is what's called shadow work. It's not easy. It's the brave, lifelong work of turning around to face yourself with honesty. The first step is just to look in the mirror of your reactions. Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Think about the people who trigger a strong reaction in you. That person whose arrogance makes you furious. That person whose laziness fills you with contempt. Or that person whose freedom makes you feel a pang of envy. These strong feelings are clues. They're often mirrors. Maybe their arrogance is reflecting back your own hidden ambition that you were taught to suppress. The next time you feel that intense reaction, just pause and ask yourself, what is this showing me about myself? What part of me is this activating? A second path is through journaling. Your shadow needs a voice, so give it one. Set aside some time and write a letter to your shadow. Ask it what it wants, what it's afraid of. Then, switch seats. Write a letter back from your shadow. Let it speak. Without judgment. Don't censor it. You might be shocked at what it has to say. By giving it a voice on the page, you stop it from screaming at you from the darkness. A third path is creative expression. The shadow speaks in symbols and feelings, not logic. You don't have to be an artist. Paint, draw, or write a story from the perspective of a character who has all the traits you hide. The goal isn't a masterpiece. The goal is to let your unconscious speak without a filter. It transforms that energy from something you fear into something you can use. And finally, through all of this, self-compassion is critical. Remember, you built your shadow to survive. You learned to hide parts of yourself to be safe, to be loved. As you start to look at them, you have to be kind to yourself. The goal isn't to defeat your shadow. The goal is to integrate it, to welcome all the parts of you, light and dark, back home. This is the real lesson from these great minds. Their pain came from being at war with themselves. Their genius came from being close to the shadow's fire. Your path is to learn how to stand in that fire without getting burned, to use its energy, not to change the world, but for the world-changing act of building an authentic life. The stories of Tesla, Newton, and Turing show us a fundamental truth. Wholeness isn't getting rid of the darkness, it's integrating it. We're taught to chase perfection, to wear a flawless mask of light. But when we do that, we end up at war with half of who we are. The great myth is that we must conquer our demons. But the truth is, our demons are just exiled parts of ourselves, waiting to be seen. They hold an energy that is destructive when left in the dark, but when brought into the light, becomes a source of incredible strength. True freedom isn't being perfect. It's having the courage to be whole. The courage to walk down into your own basement and extend your hand, not for a fight, but for a dance. To understand that the brightest light casts the darkest shadow, and you need both to be complete. The goal is not to defeat your shadow, but to dance with it. This is the great work of a lifetime. It is your journey. For a declaration of your own commitment to this path, a commitment to wholeness over perfection, comment below. I am ready to integrate my shadow.